few words of introduction. I'm sure you all know that we do, your sons learn, our alumni parents will learn nothing here. And there's a particular derech halimud, which I have a Masora from Rabbi Weinberg, Zechron Lebracha. And it's particular to Nevi'im Rishonim, which is Yeshua, Sheftim, Shmuel, and Melachim. And that is that the first 100 times you learn it, not to focus on the literary sense. There's very often if you're learning Tehillim, or Ksuvim, or Nevi'im Achronim, we're really going to focus on why did the Navi use this word here, or the future tense and the past tense, and really delve into each pasuk slowly in a literary sense. Whereas his advice was to learn the Nevi'im Rishonim, understanding the story, and understanding the perspective of Chazal from both a halachic and a hashkafic nature. And that's the way we've been learning it over here. And so we do go through it relatively quickly. It takes us 4 years, but relatively quickly. And we don't focus so much on the literary aspects of the psukim and of the way the Navi wrote it. I don't know how clear I was when I gave people a homework assignment for the first time. You're all welcome to take a booklet, and there is the first half of the booklet is an outline for preparation, just helps you prepare the Perek and lets you know what to focus on. And the second half of the booklet is the Mar Mekomos, the source material for the shiur. I'm not going to do it so textually over here. I understand that there are a lot of varying levels of textual ability among the parents, much more so than among the Talmidim. So, but it's especially for those who are capable of delving into the text. It's there for those people. I did say to prepare the Perek Yud Aleph. I didn't want to say chapter 11. To prepare Perek Yud Aleph, and we started actually this year the middle of Perek Yud Aleph. We split Perek Yud Aleph into two. The first half of Perek Yud Aleph we learned last year, and that's still Shlomo. It's really the last Perek of Shlomo HaMelech. And the second half of the Perek, where we started from this year, where we start from tonight, is the beginning of the split of the Melucha. I have absolutely no respect for the Perokim. I don't mind splitting them. I don't know how many of you know, but you know the chapters in Tanakh are not of Jewish origin, actually of Christian origin in the 13th century. Why we still use them, why we originally used them is because we had to respond to the Christians in so many of the biblical debates. So we had to respond to their chapter and verse, literally. And why we still use it, and everybody. There's nobody who says, we're not going to use it. I have my own theories. We'll save it for a different time. But it's amazing that we are still using it. Even the division of Shmuel into Shmuel Aleph and Beis, and Melachim into Aleph and Beis is of Christian origin. We don't have it. It's two separate books. It's Shmuel and Melachim. So we're going to focus on the second half of the Perek, beginning with Yeravim ben Nevat and the split of the Melucha. For anybody who perhaps didn't have a chance to look into the Perek, I'll just review the main highlights of the second half of the Perek quickly. Yeravim ben Nevat was a very chashuv yid. He had been appointed as an officer by Shlomo HaMelech. He was actually seemingly the governor over the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe. He himself is from Ephraim. The Navi uses the term Beis Yosef. It seems to have been a separate entity within Klal Yisrael, the idea of a Beis Yosef. And he was in charge of that. And at one point, he stood up and he rebuked Shlomo HaMelech publicly. That Shlomo HaMelech had built up, there was a place called Milo. It's not so clear exactly what it was, but in the entrance to Yerushalayim, there was a big wide open plaza called Milo, and that made it easier for the Olei Regolim to go to the Beis HaMikdash in Olei Regol. Then when Shlomo married Bas Paro, and he built a palace for his wife Bas Paro, by the building of the palace, he closed off that entranceway to the Beis HaMikdash, and Yeravim ben Nevat rebuked him rebuked him very, very severely for that. Then Yeravim ben Nevat is in the field, and the Navi of the time, Achia Hashiloni, who's from Shiloh, also from Shevet Ephraim, Achia Hashiloni encounters him with a nevuah. And as we encounter sometimes, the Navi does an action to solidify the nevuah. The Ramban in the spiritual Chumash says that every time you find that a Navi does an action, that means that this nevuah is irrevocable for any reason whatsoever. So the Achia Shiloni goes to Yeravim ben Nevat, and he takes a garment. We'll see whose garment in a moment, and he tears it into 12 parts, and he gives 10 parts to Yeravim, and he keeps 2 parts for himself. He says, these 10 parts, 10 out of the 12 tribes, are yours. There's a difference of opinion whose garment he tore. One opinion is he tore Yeravim's garment, and the other opinion is that he tore his own garment. The rationale of tearing his own garment was an act of avelus, an act of mourning over the split of the Melucha and the fact that 10 of the 12 tribes were being taken away from Malchus Beis David. Shlomo HaMelech hears definitely hears of the public rebuke that Yeravim ben Nevat gave him, and he may have heard of the fact that of the nevuah of Achia Hashiloni, and he believes that Yeravim ben Nevat is guilty of treason. He wants him killed. Yeravim ben Nevat flees to Egypt. Shishak, Melech Mitzrayim. Obviously, the Mefarshim point out that Shlomo's father-in-law, the father of Bas Paro, was no longer the Paro of Egypt. It was a different Paro, Shishak. And so he flees there until Shlomo HaMelech dies after ruling for 40 years. And Shlomo became Melech at the age of 12, so at the age of 52. He was niftar, and at the age of after Shlomo HaMelech was niftar, Yeravim ben Nevat comes back to Eretz Yisrael without a position, without anything, and next week begins the story of the actual split of the Melucha. But this is the prophecy of the split of the Melucha takes place this week, where Yeravim ben Nevat is told by Achia Hashiloni in the name of God that Hashem has split the Melucha. Shlomo was still alive, and the Navi says clearly that it's only in the schus of David that I will not split the Melucha while David's son is still alive, but after the death of David's son, the Melucha will split. So we'll try to deal with some of the issues. And I want to begin with an insight that I heard from Rav Nachman Bullman, Zichron Livrocha. Nachman Bullman was a very close friend of my family from way back from the Lower East Side. And he was a Rebbe in the Yeshiva that I went to, RJJ, and he became more prominent and famous when he was involved with Or Sameach in Eretz Yisrael. I considered Rav Bullman to be the master Baal Machshava in Tanakh of his generation. And he told me the following. For those who want to see a little bit in the text, on page 39 is the first page of the Mar Mekomos, and you see the part, you're going to skip around a little bit, part that says Yosef Yechov, you see Rabbi Bullman's insight. So there's a pasuk in Bereshis and Parshas Vayigash. When Yosef reveals his identity to the brothers, it says, V'lo Yochol Yosef l'his apik. And Yosef could not restrain himself, l'chol hanitzovim olav, for all the people standing around him. Vayikra, and he called out, Hotziu kol ishmei oloi. Get rid of everybody, take away everybody. V'lo omad ish ito. There was no person there with him. B'hizvada Yosef el echov. When Yosef revealed his identity to his brothers. So it says, the beginning of the passage says, V'lo yochol Yosef l'his apik. Yosef could not hold himself back. That's clear, Rabbi Bullman said, that Yosef's revelation of his identity to his brothers was done prematurely. He had a plan. And he was very patient with this plan. It's been 22 years since he was sold as a slave to Egypt. He never notified his family that he was alive. He had his own sense of mission, the nevuah, ruach hakodesh, of what he was supposed to do, and he had not the time had not yet come for him to reveal his identity, but he couldn't hold himself back. Now, what was Yosef's mission? Yosef's mission, besides to ultimately be the mechalkel, be the sustainer of Klal Yisrael, Yosef was the party for the first split among the brothers. The first Milchemes Achim, the first split among the brothers, was Yosef on one side and all the brothers on the other side. He was accused unjustifiably of wanting to take the mantle of leadership away from everybody else and leave and do to his brothers what Yaakov did to Esav, knock him out of the legacy. It was not his intent. At the same time, he seems to be somewhat guilty because Yosef is the basar maror. The way he handled it definitely encouraged them to have kinah v'sinah, to have jealousy and hatred of him. But David's mission, Yosef's mission in life was to heal the rift between him and the brothers. It was to create the unity that the Bnei Yaakov, that the Bnei Yisrael had to have. And a lot of the things that he did were separating Shimon and Levi and keeping Binyamin back and testing the brothers. All this was intended to ultimately create the unity. The time had not yet come. It was premature. Lo yochol Yosef l'hisabi. He revealed his identity prematurely. And how do we know that it was premature? Because we are learning Melachim Aleph, Perek Yud Aleph, and Yerovim ben Nevat from Shevet Yosef. Secedes from the union headed by Rechavam ben Shlomo of Shevet Yehuda. The confrontation between Yosef and Yehuda in the beginning of Parshas Vayigash had not been healed. The rift was there, it was prematurely. But Rabbi Bullman points out, look what Yosef had accomplished. It's almost there. Right? Because when Yerovam ben Yosef splits off from Yehuda with Yerovam, everybody goes with Yosef. Everybody goes with Yosef. The only tribe that stayed with Yehuda was Yosef's brother Binyamin, the one for whom Yehuda was Moser Nefesh, Vayigash Elav Yehuda, and being Moser Nefesh of Binyamin. Binyamin sticks with Yehuda. All the other tribes go with Yosef. So look what Yosef had accomplished, but not quite. Not quite. We have to wait for Mashiach ben Yosef and our Masorah to heal the rift in full. In the Haftorah to Parshas Vayigash, if you take a look over here, I have a few psukim from the Haftorah in Parshas Vayigash, which is Nevuah from Yecheskel, Perek Lamed Zayin, a beautiful Nevuah, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Yecheskel to take two pieces of wood. And on one piece of wood, he's to write Yosef and Ephraim, and the other piece of wood, he's to write Yehuda. And to hold them in his hands, and in his hands, all of a sudden, they fused into one. Became one piece of wood. And that's the Nevuah that Yecheskel was saying, that La'osid Lava in the future, that Klal Yisrael will be unified once again. Yosef and Yehuda, really the two Melachim, the two kings. Yosef, Yehuda is the Melech, or Yosef Shevet mi Yehuda. Yosef was really Yaakov's intended firstborn, if not for the whole Rachel Leah shtick. And Yosef was a Melech, but Mashiach ben Yosef will be the one to pave the way for Mashiach ben David from Shevet Yehuda. And if you take a look at the last pasuk in the Haftorah here, it's actually the last two psukim that I've quoted here. V'yosisi osam l'day echad ba'oretz. I will make them into a single nation in the land. B'horei Yisrael, in the mountains of Israel. L'melech echad yihiyeh l'kulam l'melech. They'll have a single king. V'lo yihiyeh oyedu l'shnei goyim. There will no longer be two separate nations. They will no longer be divided anymore. The Avdi David Melech Aleihim. And my servant David, meaning Mashiach ben David, will be the king. There'll be a single shepherd for all of them. So we have this nevuah. Look, we know we're in this very long and bitter galus. That the galus should be over quickly, and we're here because of the Churban Beis Hamikdash, Churban Bayesheni. Churban Bayesheni in particular is because of Sin HaSchina. It's because of the lack of the unity in Klal Yisrael. V'lo yochel Yosef lehisapek, couldn't hold himself back, is why we're here today. Because that rift bein ha'achim, which really started with Cain and Hevel, and reared its ugly head within the children of Yaakov, is the reason why we're in Golus today, because of the lack of achdus and unity within Klal Yisrael. And we have to, in order to bring Mashiach, we ourselves have to love every Jew. As they say, the only antidote for sin chinam is ahavas chinam. Sin chinam is hating a fellow Jew for no good reason. So, you're supposed to love fellow Jews for no good reason. You know, why should I like you? No reason. No reason. Because we're mishpacha. Mishpacha is mishpacha. We're brothers, sisters. This is the nevuah. I was also thinking, based on Rabbi Bullman's work, the amazing insight that Binyamin stuck with Yehuda. Of all the tribes, everybody splitting off on the Melucha, the only one that stuck with Yehuda was Binyamin. That one of the things that's amazing, that not only is it amazing because he's a Ben Rachel, and he should be loyal to Yosef, Yehuda's a Ben Leah, but when Shaul HaMelech died, and Shaul was from Binyamin, and we know that Shmuel HaNavi had anointed David ben Yishai as the Melech, but Shaul's children, in particular Ishbosheth, his surviving child, because many of his children were killed in that fateful battle of Har Gilboa, but the surviving child Ishbosheth claimed that he was king, and there was actually a civil war for 7 years. When David first established his kingdom, he was king only of Shevet Yehuda. His capital city was Hebron, and he was Melech in Hebron for 7 years. It was only after the armies of Binyamin were defeated that all of Klal Yisrael accepted David as Melech. So there was a civil war between Binyamin and Yehuda, right, for fighting over who's going to be king. Ishbosheth ben Shaul from Binyamin and David ben Yishai from Yehuda. That was the most recent civil war. And when they finally made peace, they made a peace that was everlasting. And it was a bond that stayed together despite the winds of secession, despite the winds of splitting the Melucha that were led by Yeravam ben Nevat. Which means this was a mini coming true of Nevuas Yecheskel, that you can have a Ben Leah and a Ben Rachel who are at war with each other and make peace and are so tight and bonded together. Tachas Melech David. That Binyamin actually eventually did what Mashiach ben Yosef is supposed to do, which is lay the groundwork for accepting David Melech Yisrael over all of Israel. That came true with Binyamin. And Yehuda. So already we saw like a mini preview of the nevuah of Yecheskel coming true. Okay, in the bottom half of this page 39, I just have a few modern makomos of the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. We take a look at the first one, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, from the Malbim, and there in that Perek in Yecheskel, which is the Haftorah for Parshas Vayigash. Malbim says, Mikabolas Chazal, is the Kabbalah, the Masorah of Chazal, Shetchila Ya'amod Mashiach ben Yosef, that first there will be a Mashiach ben Yosef, who melech me'aseres hashvatim, will be a king of the 10 tribes. Who yilcham me'milchamos, he will fight battles. V'yisasvu kol Yisrael tachas diglo, and all of Israel will gather under his banner. Ad she'achar kach yovo ben David, so afterwards ben David will come, who yimloch aleim. Exactly how that's going to happen, we'll see. We'll see.
Aleihem is who?
What?
Who's Aleihem?
On all of Israel. V'yisasvu kol Yisrael, that's the pasuk. V'yisasvu kol Yisrael tachas diglo, ad she'achar yovo ben David yimloch aleim over kol Yisrael.
Will there be a war?
Oh, it's going to be a big one.
No, between
the two?
Oh, no.
Well, that's what it seems to say.
Where?
So,
No.
Ad she'achar kach Yoveh ben David. Afterwards, Ben David will come. Hu yimloch aleihim, and he will war against Ben Yosef.
Well, this Malbim is out of context, but he does talk about Milchemes Gog and Magog and the Milchemes against the nations that will be led by Mashiach ben Yosef. Yilcham Milchemes against the nations, and all Yisrael will be united under the banner of Mashiach ben Yosef, the Malbim says, until that banner will be given over to Melech, to David HaMelech. That's what he's saying, and that is the Masorah we have of the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. Take a look at the next thing, which is from Medrash Rabbah in Parshas Vayigash. It says V'aryeh kaboka yochal teven, that famous chapter in Yeshaya that describes the bucolic vision of Yemos HaMashiach, of the Erev Mashiach. V'aryeh a lion kaboka, like cattle, yochal teven, will eat teven, which in Yeshaya's way, being vegetarian is a sign of peace. Carnivorous animals are a symbol of war. Aryeh ze Mashiach ben David, Sheba mi-Yehuda, Shenekra Aryeh. The Lion of Judah, that's Aryeh. It says Gur Aryeh Yehuda, quotes the pasuk in Bereshis.
Yeah.
And what's Kabokar? Ze Mashiach ben Yosef, Shenekra Shor. Yosef for sure, Shenekra Bechor Shoro, Hordolo. Yochal Tevet. L'sha'avar, in the past, Yerovam ben Nevat, Shehoya me Ephraim, who was from Ephraim, Hoyasone Rechavam HaMelech, he hated Rechavam HaMelech, Shehoya me Yehuda, Shehoya Machlokes benei. Aval Asid Lavav, in the future, Yesholom ben Shnei Meshichim Halolo, there will be peace between these two Meshichim, V'lo Yikanu Zebazeh, and they will not have any jealousy one against the other. And our Masorah, is the way I've seen it so often, is that Mashiach ben Yosef will lay the groundwork for Mashiach ben David to come in. There is a Gemara in Sukkah of Mashiach ben Yosef actually dying and there being a big levaya. So, Yes Hashem, we shall be zeichet to see what happens when it happens. Okay, let's talk about Yerovam for a minute. Now, Yerovam ben Nevat, for those of you who are familiar, Yerovam ben Nevat is even though we haven't seen anything bad about him yet, but Yerovam ben Nevat is going down for all ages as the ultimate chotei umachti esarabi. Yerovam ben Nevat is the chotei, the one who sins, umachti, and causes others to sin. This is chotei umachti esarabi. Right? But he didn't start off that way. That is not the reason why Shlomo originally appointed him as the governor, or whatever the title was, over Beis Yosef, and it was not the reason why Kodesh Baruch Hu chose Yerovam to be the Melech over the 10 tribes. If you take a look at on the second page, so it says that Achia Hashiloni took a Salma Chadosha. He took a new garment. So it's Gemara in Sanhedrin, Omer Rav Nachman, Salma Chadosha, just like a new garment. Ma Salma Chadosha ein bo shum dofi, just like a new garment has nothing wrong with it, right? No rips, no coffee stains, no mustard stains, right? Af teigosai shel Yeravam, lo hoya bo shum dofi. Yeravam's Torah, there's no blemish at all in Yeravam's Torah. Davaracha, another approach. What is a salma chadasha? What do you mean by a new garment? Why is the Navi emphasizing new? Shechidishu devarim, shelo shama ozen me'olam. They will mechadesh things. They said new things. Shelo shama ozen me'olam that no ear had heard. Meaning, is just in Torah, right? That Achia Hashiloni meets Yeravam ben Nevat in the field, right? Hello, Yeravam, how are you? How are you, Achia? Wife and kids, how's everybody, right? You know, what are they going to talk about? They're going to talk in learning, and they came up with such tremendous kedushin that nobody had heard them before. Continuing, Mayu shnehem levadam basodeh. What do you mean they were both alone in the field? Omer Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Rav is quoted by Rabbi Yehuda. Shekol Talmidei Chachamim, all other Talmidei Chachamim, Domin Lefneim, were comparable to them, Ki Isvei Hasodah, like the grasses of the field. They were incomparable. There was nobody that came close to these two. They were alone. Achia and Yeravam. Iko di Omar, those that say, Shekol Ta'amei Torah, the reason that it says Sodah in the field, all the reasons of the Torah, the depths of the Torah, Megulin Lahem, were revealed to them, Kisodah, just like a Sodah is visible and open, there's nothing hidden in the field. So here also all the Talmidei Torah. So we introduced here Yeravam ben Nevat, what we know about him so far in Perek Aleph. Yeah, I'm sure we peaked in Perek Days and we saw what's going to happen there, which is not going to be good news next week. But here is a great person, great in Torah, great in his abilities, as an Ish Chayil, the Navi calls him. He's fantastic. Now, there's a very, very beautiful Malbim. Go back to the beginning, top of page 39. I'm skipping around a little bit. For those of you who have a Navi, the Pasuk is here, but it's worthwhile seeing it in the Navi. For those of you who have, in Pasuk Lamed Zayin. In Pasuk Lamed Zayin, you have the art scroll at the very top of page 126. This is Achia Hashiloni speaking to Yeravam ben Nevat. And he says, V'osaka ekach, and I will take you, u'malachta, and you shall reign, b'chol asher ta'ava nafshecha, over all that you desire, v'hayisa melech al Yisrael, and you'll be a melech over Israel. It's a simple pshat. Listen to what the Malbim, in his greatness, listen what he does to this cause. Look what he sees in what Achia Hashiloni is telling Yeravam ben Nevat. So here at the top of page 39. For those of you who have difficulty with the text, just listen to the English. U'malachta b'chol asher ta'ava nafshecha, and you will reign over all that you desire. Omar lei. Achia tells him, T'nai el hamelucha. There's a condition for the kingship. Sheterem, that before Yimloch al ha'am, before you can reign over the people, Yimloch al atzmo, reign over yourself. Im Yimloch al kochos nafsho, if you will reign over the kochos, the strengths of your soul, v'tavosav, and your desire, sheyichnu, that you will humble them tachas mishma'at haseichel, under the discipline of rationale, and you will rule over your emotions and your desires. Az, then hu haroi limloch al ha'am, then he is the person who's fitting to reign over the people. Kamosha kosav akuzari. That's what Kuzari wrote. Now listen to when he reads the pasuk. V'zeh Omar, and this is what the pasuk says. Im timloch v'timshol b'chol asher ta'ava nafshecha, if you will rule over your desires, lahachniya, to subjugate tavos nafshecha, the desires of your soul, oz v'hayisa melech al Yisrael. So that's why he reads the pasuk. V'yoscha ekach u'malachta b'chol asher ta'ava nafshecha, you will rule over everything that you over all of your desires. Then v'hayisa melech al Yisrael, then you will be a melech al Yisrael. I remember once reading an article about Rabbi Kiva Eger, and I don't remember much about the article, but I remember the person's introductory paragraph. He said there were two people who lived at the same time, Napoleon and Rabbi Akiva Eger. One set out to conquer the world and failed. The other set out on a much more difficult mission to conquer himself and succeeded. If you want to be a Melech al Yisrael, you have to rule over yourself. You have to rule over yourself. The Maharal says that the word Melech, which is spelled Mem Lamed Chav, so he says that, right, Melech, so Mem is Moach, right, and this Lamed is Lev, and the Chav is Kaved. And Maharal says that Kaved, the liver, is the physical inclinations. Sometimes we use different organs for that. But in this, it says the idea of a melech, of a true melech, is that his moach, his intellect, comes first, controlling both the leiv, the heart, the emotions, and the kaved, and the physical desires. Now, Bilam, who we know was a great navi for among the Goyim. So there's a Gemara in Barachas on Daf Zayin, where the Gemara in Barachas says that one of the secrets that Bilam knew that he was hoping to harness to curse the Jews was that there is one fraction of a moment each day when one can hook into God's anger and God's dissatisfaction with the people in this world. And he had the power to know exactly when that was, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that he was never ever able to. He was distracted every time that he was wanting to do that. So Tosfos asks, if it's just a small moment, what would he have said? So Tosfos says he would have said, destroy them. And the word that Tosfos uses is kalem, destroy them.
Calamity.
Chaved, Leiv, and Moach. The reverse. The reverse. Right? The Bilam is shown up by his asam, by his donkey. Right? His donkey is more spiritual than he, because he is governed by his chomer. He is governed by his physical. He's the opposite of Melech. He's Kaleh. He's Kaleh. That's why the Melech HaMashiach, the way the Navi describes him, is Ani V'rochev Alachamor. He's somebody who has full control over his chamor, over his chomer, over his physical desires. So this was Yerucham ben Nevat. Yerucham ben Nevat was given this challenge by Achya Hashiloni to become a melech over Israel. He tells him that if you keep the mitzvahs and you do all the right things, then you'll be a successful king. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, and I'll be with you. Ach lo kol hayomim. Don't think this is going to be forever, because the kingdom will go back to David. That's what it says here in the Perek. Lo kol hayomim, you're a temporary king. Yosef was the first temporary king. He was king in Egypt, viceroy in Egypt. It's interesting that the Bnei Rochel are often called upon to be the temporary kings. Because you have Yosef from Mitzrayim, you have Shaul from Binyamin, Bnei Rochel, and then you have the Mashiach ben Yosef will be a temporary king over Israel. The idea of very unpopular for we who are brought up as red-blooded, westernized Americans, right? The democracy, the holiest of the holies, right? Democracy and a tyrannical, despotic, theocratic dictatorship, besides everything else, is not exactly comfortable with the concept. Not exactly comfortable with the concept. You know, we have one of the 13 fundamentals of faith, as articulated by the Rambam, is Emunah B'Yas HaMashiach. Number 12 is B'Yas HaMashiach. We know what the word Mashiach means, anointed. It means that there'll be a restoration of the monarchy of the house of David. Right? We believe, Ani Ma'amin B'Emunah Shalema, that when we say the Mashiach means anointed, that we will have a monarchy, not a democracy. The President of the United States, whatever you may think of him, he is the most powerful person in the world today, but he is a servant of the people, right? Anybody who took the U.S. government knows the President of the United States is a servant of the people, and he is. If he wants to be re-elected, or he wants, if it's in the second term and he wants his party to be re-elected, he'll do what the people want him to do. Right? A melech, the people are servants to the king. Right? He's not a servant to the people. And we don't like that. We don't like that. The Rambam, in the last Perek of Hilchos Melachim, he says that anybody who does not believe in the concept of Yemos HaMashiach, the era of Mashiach, that there will be a restoration of the monarchy of the house of David, that will bring korbanos again in the Beis HaMikdash, that we will go back and keep Shemitah and Yovel properly, that all of the chukim and mishpatim of the Torah will be, which we study now on a purely academic basis, will be real. Anybody who doesn't believe that that's going to happen is a kofir. He's a kofir, he's a heretic. He's a heretic, it's not Birkas. Then the Rambam says, Misha eino ma'amin bo, if he doesn't believe in the coming of Mashiach. O mi she'eino mechakeh leviyoso. Right? You see, right? V'yafal pi she'yismameya achakeh lo, I will yearn for him, wait for him. So he says, mi she'eino ma'amin bo, if you don't believe in him, o mi she'eino mechakeh leviyoso, he's not waiting or yearning for his coming, he's a kofir. He's a heretic. So what does that mean? I mean, the guy who's not waiting for Mashiach to come, the Misha Eino Mechakeh Leviyoso, so obviously believes in him. Because if he wouldn't believe in him, he'd already be labeled a heretic from the first category, from the first sentence, right? Misha Eino Ma'amin Bo, you don't believe in it. So, or another type of person who's a kofir is Misha Eino Mechakeh Leviyoso, he doesn't yearn. Something, who are the people who are not yearning? Nice, good, from red-blooded American Jews. They say, Mashiach, monarchy, theocracy, the Constitution will be the Torah, everybody will have to keep Shabbos and will be brought to Bezdin if you don't keep Shabbos. And I mean, what kind of a way to live is that? He's a kofir. He doesn't understand the Torah. He doesn't understand the Torah, and he does not understand the concept of Malchus Beis David. To Rachel Darchi Noam V'chol Nisi V'Seh Sholom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes in the Torah that the right way for Klal Yisrael to live is with a melech. And until we have a melech, we won't have a Beis HaMikdash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be sure with the Shekhinah and Klal Yisrael without a melech. And here's the difficulty here. And this drives me crazy. It drives a lot of people crazy. You learn Navi, and you take out a piece of paper, and right, but every time you come to a king, was he a good king or a bad king? Did he abuse the power of the Malchus or not? And pretty much you'll find that as often, or if not more often, that we had kings who were proper kings, we had kings who abused the power. And they actually killed their own people, they were Jews. Haratzachta, Gamir Rashta, and the Brodin of Odazara. So we all know the pitfalls of being a melech, of having a melech. So why do we want a melech? Why isn't democracy a better way? Right? Why isn't democracy a better way? So Kadosh Baruch Hu says that this is the right way for us, for David, to have a Mashiach ben David. David was the ultimate Eved Hashem, a king of Israel, walks around not with an attaché case that has the codes to unleash horrendous power and destruction, but he walks around holding Sefer Torah all the time. He's not allowed to be without a Sefer Torah. That's David HaMelech. That's David, and that's Shlomo. And that was Asa, and that was Chizkiah HaMelech, and that was Yoshiyahu HaMelech. And we had so many of the Malkei Yehuda who were actually ready to be Mashiach. We'll learn why in their era Mashiach didn't come. But yes, like anything good, it can be abused. It can be abused. But we have Bechira Chovshis. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us freedom of choice. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us that the ultimate good will be in having a proper melech, and having an improper melech can be the ultimate bad. It goes together. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us bracha l'kolom. You see, the world that Kadosh Baruch Hu created is not a world that, if you do something good, you get everything. But if you do that, if you don't do it, you get a little slap on the wrist. It has to be weighted. If you have an opportunity for bracha, the opposite is klola. If there's no klola, there's no bracha. It has to be. It's both. This is the world that Kadosh Baruch Hu created. It's a world of potential. That's what Bechira Chovshis is. And I'll ask a question on God, Kadosh Baruch Hu. All right, Yerovam ben Nevat turned out to be Chotei Umachti. He turned out to be somebody who he stopped. As we'll learn, he stopped the people from being Olarega. He built another golden calf, Eglei Zov. He built in Beis El and done. Right? And he put in Avodah Zorah. What, Kadosh Baruch Hu, why did you choose him? Why did you choose him? So Kadosh Baruch Hu chose him because he had the potential to be the best king possible over the 10 tribes. God does not interfere with our Bechira Chovshis, you understand? You drive me crazy. God does not interfere with our freedom of choice. Did HaKadosh Baruch Hu know that Yerovam ben Nevat was going to mess up? Of course he knew. He knows everything, but you can't ask that. We know we can't ask that question. Because it's a question that doesn't make sense, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beyond time. There's no future, past, or present. There's no time by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're limited by time like we're limited by space, because we're physical creatures. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not limited by time. So all questions of time don't make any sense. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yerovam ben Nevat could have been the greatest tzaddik, and history would have been entirely different. We have to believe that. He could have been. This was not, Kadosh Baruch Hu did not fix the election over here. He didn't fix the history. Right? He could have been the biggest tzaddik. You have to believe that, otherwise the whole story doesn't make any sense. I'll take questions now if anybody has any questions. Yes?
But don't we understand that after, in the time of Mashiach, it'll be like utopian society? There won't be a bad melech. Like, Bechira and all those things, Yitzchok will be different. Right? Just we can be back to before the Chait?
Maybe.
A little
I don't know.
I mean, the nevuah of the Galios, this is the last Galos. So we're not going to have another Egel in the base of Mikdash or anything like that.
Right, that's true. That's true. So I'll tell you how I understand it. I understand it in Nitzavim, in the beginning of Perek Lamed, Christian Perek in Tendler, right? Beginning of Perek Lamed, so it says like this. I'm not going to even try to quote accurately because it's from Torah Shabbat, but something along these lines. When all these things will come, this is after Kisavo, the bracha and the klala, and you will take to heart among all the nations where I have spread you out there, and v'shavta Hashem Elokecha, you do tshuva, and I'm going to bring you back to Eretz Yisrael, and we're going to ride off into the sunset together. Right? Now, I'll tell you like this. This is the way I understand those psukim. Let's say somebody will come to me, and they have a problematic child. Right? Problematic child, rebellious, this or this, and I tell them, hey, come to me, I'm a big mechanech, I'll handle it. Come to me for 4 years. I know just the right formula. distance him, and I'll bring him back, and I'll punish him, and I'll reward him, and I know how to do it. I guarantee you, by the time he graduates, he's going to be perfect. Now, can any human being say that? No. No human being can say that. But God can. Because Baruch Hu can. And I believe that's mamish what that pasuk is saying. When all these things will befall you, all the golios, and all the expulsions, and the inquisitions, and the crusades, and the pogroms, and all the gedolim that I'm going to send you, and all the miracles that are throughout the ages, the miracles of Jewish survival, everything, by the time we get to the year 2013, 2014, all the experiences that Klal Yisrael will have had that will lead to that teshuvah, I'm telling you that teshuvah will be permanent teshuvah. That teshuvah will be a permanent teshuvah. That's about mamish what I hold that the pasuk is saying. And you're right, we have a guarantee that once
So
we
we
go
don't
back
need
to
to be
Eretz
afraid.
Yisrael.
We don't need to be afraid of a monarchy.
What?
We don't need to be afraid of a monarchy.
Right, exactly.
Because you're not going to have a bad melech.
Exactly. Exactly, but we Rabban ben Avad, we were afraid of. Right? Rabban, but we were afraid of. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have Mechir Chavshis, doesn't mean not going to be Yetzer Hara. That's already a big discussion in the Muslim Mashiach. The Rambam says, Ein ve'olam hazel yimaisa Mashiach, al Yeshiva malchus b'man. The Rambam says that there's not going to be any difference in nature between now and then. And all the nevuos of Yeshaya, the Gorza Evim Keves, that the wolf will go out with the lamb, that's all metaphors that clients are living in peace with the Messiah. The Ramban disagrees. Some say there will be different stages. There will be the first stage of Yemos HaMashiach will be a very natural one. And then once the Beis HaMikdash is built, sometime afterwards, there will be a Tchias HaMesim for Tzadikim, and then we go back like Adam HaRishon L'fnei HaChet. Right? That doesn't mean, that means we go back to the way Adam was L'fnei HaChet. And onion rolls growing from trees, that kind of stuff. I think you'll still be able to shop for clothes.
No.
That's it. I don't want the Gemara not to yearn for Mashiach. So I'm afraid if I tell her she can't shop for clothing.
Now. It's not so much the clothes. Different stage of life.
Okay, if anybody has any questions, otherwise we'll.
Can I ask a question on Yosef?
Sure.
Even though it's not the Navi, it's the...
Yeah.
So what was Lo Yechol Yosef Lasapik? Because truth be told, as she was speaking, I was kind of interesting because in another angle of his life, that was his mitzvah, and that was very outstanding. In other words, Yosef, the individual, when it came time to other issues, was able to hold back in an unusually beyond human sort of capacity. But here, where it would have been so helpful to hold back, he wasn't. So what really was the drive there? I mean, he just couldn't hold back to put his brothers through this further? Is that, what was it that Lo Yechol Lasapik?
I mean, the way I understood what Rav Bowman was saying, at the time, unfortunately we can't ask him anymore, is just the emotional connection with the brothers, that he was away from his family for 22 years. And these
In other words, what would have been required to heal the rift, that they would have had to
they would have
twist
to
and turn a little
they
more?
would have to demonstrate more
Right.
Mesiras Nefesh,
Right.
and
So to do that, his brothers, he couldn't.
they would have to demonstrate more Mesiras Nefesh. Yeah, the fact that I think another simon that the rift hadn't healed, that there was still mistrust, is that they go to Yosef. They go to Yosef
Right, after
Yaakov dies, and they said, Daddy told us to tell you to be nice to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a lie, the Gemara says. The Gemara says, Mutter l'shanas v'tei darkei sholom. You know what? You know how they know? The Gemara knows it was a lie, because Yosef never told his father what happened. So he was able to hisapek, right? That, you know what they did to me. He was able to hisapek. So that was a lie. The Gemara says, Mutter l'shanas v'tei hasholom. You're allowed to lie. V'tei hasholom. Thank you all so much for coming.